Welcome to this special edition of On the Road here from the 2024 Angus Convention in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's coverage is brought to you by Angus Link and IMI Global. And today we're going to be diving deep into the direction and future of the Angus breed, cover some key insights on herd rebuilding and strategies to capture value in an evolving marketplace. So stay with us as we bring you the latest updates and insights from the heart of this year's convention. So first off on today's report, we see that the Angus breed has a long-standing reputation for quality, resilience, and innovation. Today, leaders in the Angus industry are sharing their vision for the breed's future, and we'll be discussing the new initiatives set to strengthen the cattle business.
There does tend to be a lot of optimism, not ignoring some of the challenges that are out there. Folks across the country, there's lots of challenges still to point to, right? But in general, I think we look at our market and we look at some of the fundamentals in our market. The demand is incredibly strong for our product, our end product. Even at the retail prices that we've put out there, we continue to see great movement of our beef products out there yet. That's translating. Obviously, we're sitting on some pretty low inventories, so that's translating to some really good cattle prices. But for our commercial customers, of course, our seed stock breeders, our registered Angus breeders have continued to enjoy some really strong demand on their good registered Angus seed stock. And so, again, quite a bit of optimism fueled by some margin and some profitability in our business.
This is kind of the culmination of the year and get together a lot of great breeders from across the nation. And I get to see a lot of my fellow board members and former board members and people who've contributed to the breed. And it's always a great meeting place and time to get reacquainted. And fortunately, we're enjoying good prices, and Angus is doing very well right now.
And the demand for certified Angus beef continues to grow, with the second best sales year, marketing over 1,235 million pounds of certified Angus beef.
You know, even at that total, it was only about 10 to 15 million pounds off of record pace, which, again, I say that because that's so much better than maybe where instinctively we might have thought the business would have gone with, as you mentioned, tight cattle numbers and so forth. And what really was a bit of a surprise was exactly how supply actually performed as we went through the year. We could reach that level of sales primarily because we saw record numbers of certified carcasses this past year. So even while maybe fed cattle were down tightly, we know the cow numbers are low in cow country, but we certified 5.96 million carcasses that met certified Angus beef. And so there's more Angus cattle out there than ever before, and those Angus cattle are as focused on end product merit as we've ever seen, and we begin to experience that in our supply numbers and in our sales numbers as a result.
As registered and commercial cattle producers see higher calf prices this year amidst a record low U.S. cattle herd, they are all eager to understand how weather and other factors will impact a future herd rebuild. Angus producers say they're ready to play a significant role in that endeavor.
The opportunities are going to be really good. I mean, we started into this herd rebuilding deal. Angus is going to be in the forefront. Said the last time we rebuilt, we changed the cow herd immensely. And it's going to happen again. We got better genetics. We can go along and said when we start rebuilding these Angus cattle, purebred Angus cattle, are going to be in the front of the street, and there's opportunities galore.
The fall sales season just wrapped up down in California in the southwest, and they had a great sales season down there. And ours generally follows that trend. Bulls were in high demand. People were excited. And I think when you look at the summertime videos and how those people sold their cattle, and that cattle market's come up a little bit here in the last couple of weeks. So people are going to be pretty excited, I think. It's going to be interesting to see what the commercial female market does. I think that's going to be interesting to see, just because we haven't marketed a whole big Jags yet. I've heard guys, I talked to a guy yesterday here, and he said that he saw 33,000 for bred heifers, which is pretty encouraging. That if they're getting that now, it's pretty early yet, that it should be a good market.
You know, the Angus world is very unique. We are very popular. We're the number one breed, and we continue to make good progress. But by knowledge and learning and seeing what we put out there, people can get better prepared to make good decisions.
As the Angus breed looks to the future, exciting changes are definitely on the horizon. And when we return, we'll tackle a critical question on the minds of cattle producers. Just when will the U.S. cattle herd begin to rebuild? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We've been told not to judge a book by its cover. The same could be said for your cattle. With more black cattle on the market today, wouldn't it be great to capture the extra value you've added to your herd? Angus Link makes cattle stand out. Enrolling in Angus Verified is an objective, reliable way to describe the genetic potential for your cattle, and it signals to buyers yours are different than the rest. The Genetic Merit Scorecard draws on the industry's largest database to evaluate calf genetics and predict performance potential from weaning to the packing plant with real-world data. Claim your competitive edge with Angus Verified and the Genetic Merit Scorecard. 2 programs under one Angus Link.
After years of declining numbers, producers across the country are wondering just when will the U.S. cattle herd begin to rebuild. Here at Angus Convention, experts are weighing in on the factors that will drive herd recovery. First, we sat down with industry analyst Dr. Neville Spear. He shared his thoughts on the U.S. cattle herd. A lot of conversations being had at Angus Convention here in Fort Worth, Texas. Our coverage brought to you by IMI Global and Angus Link. And one of those conversations happening at the trade show, the bar, the sessions, whatever it may be, is the size of the U.S. cattle herd. And is there going to be some herd rebuilding? That's a big question. That's not a easy question to answer, but joining us here today is Dr. Neville Spear. And Neville, as we come here to Angus Convention, that's one of the conversations happening, and one of the talks that you will be having as well is the size of the U.S. cattle herd, rebuilding, trends, weather. So much goes into this, but
That's
first
right.
off, welcome to our conversation here
Yeah,
today.
well,
Thanks for
thank
joining
you
us.
for having me.
But what has it been like, though, here as we wrap up 2024? We're seeing good prices for producers for the most part. These light calves sure bringing some good prices here this fall, too, which is nice to see. But when you're talking with seed stock, commercial producers, what's your read on the cattle herd, the cattle market here in November 2024? And what are your thoughts as we move into the new year?
Yeah, it's a 2-part question, right? So first of all, let's just talk to markets. I mean, you can't go anywhere that people don't feel pretty good about it. Whether it's a cull cow, it's a cull bull, it's yearlings, whether it's their calves, everybody's feeling pretty good. And we're seeing prices that we've never seen before, and they've lasted for a couple of years. And when we look at Fed trade, for example, last week, $6 better than a year ago on bigger production, bigger fed beef production than we had, right? All the stories of demand and how that's translating into cattle prices, it's really pretty amazing. On the flip side of that, right, you asked the other question, herd rebuilding. It's still pretty tepid. I mean, if you look at kind of all the cow slaughter rates, probably where we're going to end up, we're going to be somewhere 28 million, 27.9 million cows. So, right, we're going to take another little cut out of the cow herd. A lot of things driving that, and I think one of the major factors is all of a sudden the country's pretty dry again. And so drought is on the forefront of everyone's mind. Interest rates are high. And the thing that's just been really tough the last 4 or 5 years, equipment costs. It's just nothing to spend $150,000 to go buy a mid-sized tractor with a loader or whatever it is you need. And so it's a challenge, yeah.
And I know we're really getting into the replacement sales for replacement females.
Yeah.
Everybody's been asked, what are these replacement heifers going to bring? What are these young cows going to bring? And just watching it from I don't think we're going to see record prices for them. And this is just Line's opinion. You're more the expert than I am. But I think we're going to see solid prices for them. But looking, what are we seeing for maybe a commercial Angus replacement heifer here this fall, do you think?
Yeah, I've heard all kinds of things, because I heard some prices that were really on the low end out of North Carolina a couple weeks ago following the hurricane, right? We just had to move cows because we don't have fences and what have you. But, it's nothing to see a bred heifer bring 3,000, even 3,500. And of course, you'll see some on the upper side of that. But I agree with you. We're not going to get crazy, but these good prices seem to be lasting longer. But I think producers learned their lesson in 2015. We want to be very careful of the cash trap, right? And so we're going to make a pretty wise investment decision as we go forward.
One of the big topics that has been discussed with these higher prices for cows is seeing people retire possibly. Is that a trend that you've been able to follow or track? Because there was such a talk around, well, heck, we're seeing where people are going to retire and just get out of the business at these record highs. Is that something you followed? I'm curious if that was just rhetoric in the countryside.
Yeah, I think that's more rhetoric. You don't, I mean, of course, that's going to happen, but generally that's going to happen maybe at the smaller level where it doesn't really impact the macro. Actually, we're seeing some of the trends that we've seen and some of the survey we've done at drovers, we're seeing just the opposite. There's been enough money and the markets are good enough. Actually, we're going to bring young people back to the farm or ranch, and we're actually thinking about expansion in 2 or 3 years versus we probably wouldn't explore that 10 years ago.
What should producers, specifically on the commercial end of things, what should they be considering making plans when we're looking ahead to, maybe expanding the herd a little bit, buying some replacement heifers, managing some risk? What should producers of all ages, of all experience, what should they be considering as we wrap up this year and look towards next year's?
Well, the first thing that I always tell producers is let's get a handle on your finances. Where are you in terms of cow costs, and what have you really done in terms of profitability? Because one of the challenges that you're going to have going forward, there's more equity at risk than ever, is how are you going to be working with your banker? And your banker's going to be asking you a lot of tough questions, right? And I always tell producers, it's Shark Tank. If you don't know your numbers, you're going to be limited. So let's get a handle on that. And then let's think about if we've got a problem area, we can fix it. Now, producers hate that, right? Because that means we got to go sit inside in front of the computer. I'd rather be doing something outside, but that time inside is really valuable.
What are some tips on maybe risk management? We are seeing a lot of folks look at LRPs and, or pasture rangeland insurance. And that's new to so many livestock producers. We've seen the programs for crop producers. How can they look at that? What are your thoughts on those type of programs?
Boy, I'm always in favor of doing some risk management. It's buying insurance, and yes, it's a cost, but always my favorite expression is things that never happen all the time, right? Something could happen, something could break, and you're just going to kick yourself if you don't. I think that's part of it. Then the other part is, risk management also includes getting a handle on your finances. Where are you? What kind of cash reserves do you have? And I'd say then the third part is, what are your hay reserves? Drought continues to be a challenge. I just had this conversation, right? We've been fighting it since 2010. The last thing you want to do is have to make emotional decisions about selling your cows. Make the investment to have some extra hay reserves for maybe 6 months, what have you, so we can make really wise decisions going forward.
It's pretty amazing how quick we forget about how high those hay costs were 2-3 years ago in Montana. I mean, we've had 5-6 years of drought up there.
That's right.
And you're paying $200-$300 or more a ton, and that's a big issue. But the last 2 years, we've had a lot of hay. But I think we're going to have a little more severe winter just based on guys like Brian Bledsoe out of Colorado, who great agricultural meteorologist. So I'm glad you brought hay into that equation.
Oh, it's really important, right? So if we can price some hay correctly, and then remember, these cows are worth more than ever too. So there's a trade-off. Even if hay is a little more expensive, just kind of having to sell cows in a panic sale, you don't want to have to do that.
Again, Neville Spear joining us here today. I know you got a busy day, a lot of folks to talk with and share. Look at that magic 8-ball and shake it, or the crystal ball, whichever one you want to look at. Just anything else that you just want to share with our livestock producers out there? Just thoughts, tips, anything before I let you hit the trade show floor again?
I think this is one of the funnest and most exciting times in our business, right? And we just continue to see the investment in beef demand. It is paying off, and producers are benefiting because of it. And I think there's a really good run here for producers, not just next year or 2 years. I think we're into a 10-year run where this is really a solid demand-based driven market.
Well, I look forward to catching up with you in December 2024 at the Montana Stock Convention, where I think maybe we can dive into what trade policy may look like.
Fantastic.
Obviously, we are a few days out from the U.S. General election, so if you're watching this after the elections, we don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. But I think we could really maybe dive in a few more weeks on what whoever is president, what that trade agenda might look like, and maybe some tips on what folks should be looking at.
Really important part of our business.
So again, Dr. Neville Spear, almost screwed up your name there at the end there. Dr. Neville Spear joining us here today. And again, a lot of conversations and topics around herd rebuilding, but having good genetics and a good cow herd come along with that too. From the economic factors to the genetic opportunities, There are multiple tools available for commercial cattle producers to consider when making those important decisions about selecting replacement heifers.
In general, innovation, I think we're always looking at what we're doing. I think the danger of being around for 140 some years is it's real easy to go to the answer of, well, that's the way we've always done it. So we want to make sure, first and foremost, we don't fall in that trap. And I'd say the history of our organization is one of reinventing ourselves and being innovative when we need to, looking at programs. Are they still relevant to the producers? Do they still have the same value?
That innovation will be utilized when the time comes for cattle herd rebuilding. One of the tools in the Angus toolbox for commercial cattle producers selecting replacement heifers is GeneMax Advantage.
We look at opportunity to build back a herd that is a higher genetic level than what we started with through the last herd rebuilding process. And so we know, and you know, all the time when we go through these cycles and we get to herd rebuilding, we always build back better. We always build back with a little bit higher genetic octane in these animals. And we really want our solutions to help producers build their herds back better. So when we think about things like GeneMax Advantage or commercial heifer test, or just really going out and selecting that really good seed stock registered Angus bull with those genomically enhanced EPDs, those are tools in our toolkit for our commercial customers that can really allow them to hone in, right, and really kind of level up their herd through this process.
Ritalik Riley said that the simple DNA test can provide vital information about commercial replacement heifers.
Think about those 80 million plus data points that are going in to generate those GEPDs on our seed stock animals. That's the same data that we can basically leverage for these commercial cow herds. So Lane, you know that we don't have a lot of commercial breeders out there that maybe are keeping right pedigree records, or maybe they're not taking a lot of data. But with that genetic test, right, we can take that blood, that hair, that TSU sample, and we can be able to get basically right a genetic library of who that animal is and attach it back to that large Angus population and give them 17 individual genetic predictions, whether that's maternal traits, terminal traits, growth traits, management traits. That's what we want to focus on. And so it's the only test that's tied to the American Angus database. It's the one that also we're adding some new features coming up, which is really going to allow commercial cattlemen to talk more fluently, right, with their seed stock providers.
There's no question in my mind that third-party verification is important.
It's being verified by someone other than me, and it just gives some confidence to the consumers that we are indeed doing what we say we do.
People want the documentation. They want to know what you're doing. They want to know where the food they're eating, where it came from.
By verifying and documenting and having transparency that they can move forward, and it's a third party that's telling that story, it's to everybody's benefit.
In a dynamic and ever-evolving market, it's more important than ever for cattle producers to understand and leverage value-added strategies. Here at Convention, we explored how Angus producers can capture that value by staying ahead of market trends, adding a little bit of transparency, and aligning with consumer demands.
When you take the topic of commercial producers within the American Angus Association, we can look at it as one aspect, as the association provides services for their membership, and the commercial producers not necessarily paying dues or fees or contributing to just the income or revenue side of the association. But there's not one member that will tell you that they are the most important part of our system. That is our lifeblood, and then if they don't have any kind of sustainability or profitability, we're smoked on the seed stock side. So the commercial programs department has grown a lot over the years too.
To help commercial cattle producers maximize the value of their Angus influence cattle, Angus Link was launched by the American Angus Association to provide a transparent and objective means to verify genetic quality.
Basis of the program was just a lot of frustration that people weren't getting rewarded for the superior genetics that they were creating, and in the sea of black-hided cattle as well, there was a desire to differentiate those Angus genetics out there. And so really the Angus Link program was created to specify and designate those cattle that are out of Angus sires, and then with the genetic merit scorecard, we have the opportunity the first time to objectively and reliably describe the genetic merit dependent feeder cattle.
The American Angus Association teamed up with IMI Global to streamline Angus Link's verification, allowing efficient certification of breed composition and value-added claims. This makes enrollment very easy.
It's really, really simple. They can call IMI, just say they want to enroll in Angus Link, and they go through the agent source verification process there. If they want to do any of the other programs that IMI offers, then they can enroll at the same time. And all we really require from the Angus Link standpoint is we need to have the current bull battery that sired that calf crop, and then some information, very simple information on that cow herd, in terms of the genetics of that cow herd. And from there, we can build out the genetic merit scorecard and get them Angus verified. And so it's not a difficult process at all. And we do have a GMAX Advantage program, and we've talked about it before. But you do not have to have the cattle DNA'd, any of those things there too. We just need to have the registration numbers of the bulls that you used.
The Genetic Merit Scorecard is a marketing tool that describes the genetic potential of feeder calves across several traits, including feedlot performance and carcass value. The scores range from 0 to 200, with 100 representing the industry average. Now, this all allows producers to effectively communicate the genetic strengths of their cattle to potential buyers.
It is a grade in a sense. So if you're a buyer and you see a producer that engages in the program one year, has a score, next year they see a score and it's higher, which is the whole point. Those buyers say, well, that's not only somebody that's willing to give me more information, it's somebody that's willing to improve. Yep. And I think that is what I'm really excited about, is that the people that get engaged early on will be, I think, far and ahead, because they'll just have so much more information relative to the journey of, getting their genetics the way they really want them to be, and the way that the buyers want them to be.
Angus Link cattle marketed in 2024 also saw a significant premium.
For the Angus Link cattle, whether they were in NHTC, all natural, all the way through, we saw a premium this last year of $16.61 per hundredweight.
We will have a complete video podcast conversation with the folks at Angus Link and IMI, diving into just how important this tool can be for commercial cattle producers. That will be shared on the Lanecast Ag podcast, wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. So make sure and stay tuned for that. And there definitely is a lot of innovation and hard work that takes place in the countryside to keep ranches in business and profitable. And speaking of our hardworking ranchers in the countryside, we just wanted to highlight the Angus Heritage Foundation Award, which celebrates ranchers who have made a lasting impact on the Angus breed and their communities through decades of dedication and hard work. This year, 2 Montana ranches are receiving this prestigious honor for their outstanding commitment to the business. The Angus Heritage Foundation Award honors ranches that have made a lasting impact on the Angus breed and their communities through years of dedication. This year, 2 Montana ranchers are being recognized for those qualities, and they include Dave and Yvonne Hinman of Malta and Jim and Bob Sitz of Southwest Montana.
More than honored, to be very humble, to be honest about it. We've met so many good people in this business, and it's just to have them honor us like that is just amazing on the deal. And as you know, those cows have made our living forever, and so it's pretty special.
We're the 3rd generation, and our kids are the 4th generation, and we got a 5th generation coming on, and that means a lot to us. We're excited. I mean, I want to give my kids the opportunity that I have, that Bobby had. Hopefully we can keep this rolling, and we're not going to get rich doing this, but it's the lifestyle. That's where the wealth is, in the lifestyle and the relationships that we develop.
Just the fact that we have so many good customers, that it means so much to us that those cattle work for them. If they work for them, then it's what it's all about. And so you get to know, they become friends as well as business acquaintances and partners. They're friends also. So the last thing you want to do is make a mistake on that deal. So it's a driving factor there to try to keep the cattle aggressively better
I think we've always welcomed change. Actually, we always tried to be progressive, and I think the next generation is even going to be way more progressive and technologically advanced than we are.
Congratulations to our friends Dave and Yvonne Henman and Jim and Bob Sitz on this very well-deserved honor. And with that, we want to thank you for joining us for this on-the-road conversation in Fort Worth at Angus Convention, brought to you by IMI Global and Angus Lane. I'm Lane Nordlund. Catch you next time.